Hello, I'm with former Union Minister Mr. Yashwant Sinha. Thank you so much for joining us, who's also the consensus candidate for the upcoming presidential polls from the opposition. So my first question to you is: you've had such a prolific life, both in politically as well as as an IAS officer. Why now did you decide to now, let's say, stand for the presidential polls, and what prompted you to make this move?
Well, I didn't decide. It was decided by, a large number of political parties in the opposition, as you said. And they approached me and said, would I agree to become their common candidate, consensus candidate? And I agreed. I agreed because I had very good reasons to be in the contest on their behalf. As you mentioned, I have spent a long time in both administration and in politics. And I've held some very important positions in both administration as well as in politics, ministerial positions. I feel that my long experience in administration and politics makes me a very suitable candidate for the post of President of India. That is one. The second and more important part is that we witness a situation prevailing in our country which is dangerous, to say the least. The youth particularly are very, very upset because of the very intolerable situation on the employment front. And we are seeing the angst and the anger of the youth in the streets of this country, which is not good. And there are various other actions of the government. If I were to put it succinctly in two words, in this election, we have to decide whether we want bulldozer Raj in this country or we want constitution to prevail. This is the issue, because this government and this party which is in power today, which is the BJP, is indulging in so many unconstitutional acts that the people of India are no more prepared to tolerate that.
We saw when your name emerged and when it was in front of the media. What is significant about so many opposition parties coming together? And then, as you said, you're the consensus candidate. You said you had a list of reasons why you decided to, let's say, lend your name. But what is significant about so many opposition parties coming together for these polls?
I think a new beginning is being made in this country. A very new, fresh start. And that is signified by the fact that so many political parties have come together to sponsor me as their candidate for the presidential elections. This is a very significant beginning, and this process will continue.
Why is it significant?
It is significant because, all you people were saying, and perhaps correctly, that opposition was scattered. There was no opposition in this country. Now there is an opposition, because so many political parties have come together to put me up as their candidate. And I'm quite sure that this unity will prevail even in future. This will become the beginning of a relentless fight against a government which is becoming more and more authoritarian by the day. And that's why I told you in the beginning that it's a question now of protecting the Constitution of India. This election becomes important from that point of view.
So, as I mentioned earlier, you've had a very long you've politically been very, very active. You joined the Janata Party and then you were in the BJP for over 2 decades, almost more than 25 years. Throughout these 25 years, you, effectively have been working against the Congress. What has changed now that they're supporting you as the candidate?
You see, circumstances keep on changing in politics. They're never static. And parties and individuals have to therefore take into account those circumstances and take the decisions for the day. You are absolutely right in saying that I spent a long time in the BJP, a time when the people who are ruling the roost in the BJP were nowhere on the scene. That was a time when I enjoyed the confidence of the leadership then, of Mr. Vajpayee and Mr. Advani. But that BJP does not exist today. Unfortunately, that BJP is dead and gone. This new BJP, under the leadership of the Prime Minister and the Home Minister, is not that BJP. This BJP is a completely new entity.
And what is new about the Congress then, which you had paid?
The Congress has been fighting, let's say, vociferous tendencies, unconstitutional actions in this country, and also cooperating. I can tell you from personal experience that when we were in government in Mr. Vajpayee's era, there was many occasions where Congress party cooperated with us and we cooperated with them, because the politics of this country must run on the basis of consensus, not always on the basis of numbers. This government does not believe in consensus, and that is the death knell for democracy, because democracy survives on the basis of consensus. And that's why I'm saying that their Congress party has changed, BJP has changed. Perhaps what BJP was yesterday is the Congress today. So therefore, you should not be surprised if Congress party is standing up and supporting me.
You mentioned you were, let's say, you enjoyed immense confidence of the BJP under Mr. Vajpayee and Mr. Advani. Right now, your candidature, let's say, as a consensus candidate for the presidential post by the opposition against, one could say, Mr. Modi and Mr. Shah's BJP, is that, and you have been a vociferous critic of their policies. How significant is that? Someone who was in the BJP for over 2 decades is now standing against their, let's say, option or policies. How significant is that?
I must tell you that I am deeply, deeply disappointed. And not, this disappointment is not of today. This disappointment is from those days when I found that under the present leadership, the BJP was veering away from the path of constitutionalism, of which I believe Mr. Vajpayee was a great upholder, from the path of parliamentary democracy, which I believe Mr. Vajpayee was a great upholder, and the government increasingly became authoritarian. So consensus on the basis of which a democracy must run was destroyed. I mean, there have been so many important issues in this country over the last 8 years, where because the government does not believe in consensus, there has been no role for the opposition. You're aware of the fact that opposition is as much a part of our democratic framework of governance as the ruling party is. But where do we see the opposition today? It's just a ruling party. This is one. The second is federalism is under attack. The federal structure of our constitution is under attack. If the chief minister belongs to another political formation, then he is at the receiving end of the government of the day, at the center. So there are those issues. There are very many economic issues which have arisen, which are bothering the people and especially the youth of this country. Clearly, the government of the day and the BJP as a ruling party of the day is pursuing a path which is not only undemocratic, but dangerous for the future of this country.
Shortly after you were named as a consensus candidate for the opposition, Ms. Draupadi Murmu was named by the BJP as their presidential, the candidate for the presidential polls. How do you view these developments?
Well, one always expected that BJP will put up a candidate.
But then the support by the BJD and then they say the YSR.
It would have been best if they had supported my candidature, but they didn't, and they have put up their candidate. So let it be so. There will be a fight. It's an election. It's not a personal fight, but there will be a fight.
Talking about the Electoral College, how confident are you of getting the numbers? Because the BJD has extended their support for Ms. Murmu, as has the YSRCP. Mr. Kejriwal has not, Mr. Pawar, during speaking to the media, said he'd reached out to him. He also said he'd reach out to Mr. Jagan Mohan Reddy. But how confident, is the opposition of getting the numbers?
We are absolutely certain that all those non-BJP parties which are in government or active in various states would see the light of the day, realize the dangers which the country is facing, and will have the courage to stand up. I personally know how many leaders are today being bothered by the agencies of the government like the ED and the income tax and the CBI and this, that, and the other. Whoever tries to raise his or her head is immediately raided by these agencies. We are living in a raid Raj. I was finance minister of this country. Most of these agencies belong to the finance ministry. I never misused them for or against my opponents. This thought did not even come to my mind. But today, that has become the order of the day. Using the agencies of the government to suppress opposition, to convert opposition, and people's verdict, people's electoral verdict is being changed by the use of money power and the use of these agencies or misuse of these agencies. That is what is happening in our country. Look at what is happening in Maharashtra today. Look at what happened in Karnataka. Look at what happened in Madhya Pradesh. Where is people's mandate? Where is people's mandate in this country? And does it give you and me the confidence that if in 2024, the people were to return a verdict against this government and the leadership of this government and the party will accept that verdict? That is the danger that we face. And it's my duty as a political person to make the people of this country aware of it.
Sir, you earlier had said that there should not be a politics of identities. You should go, let's say, solely on the basis of ideology. But the fact of the matter is, Ms. Murmu is someone who comes from the tribal communities and is a lady. Do you think this is something which will be propped up multiple times by the ruling party and its?
Fine. I'll say I am 6 feet. I am 6 feet tall. And therefore, everyone who is above 5 feet 5 inches should vote for me. That is identity politics, but I have no wish to do it.
Thank you so much for speaking to us, Mr. Sinha. For more, stay tuned to theprint.in and follow us on our social media handles.